Boris Johnson has been warned UK universities could be at serious risk of being used as leverage against Britain in any future trade dispute with China. UK universities are extremely reliant on overseas students for their funding and in particular Chinese students. As of last year, Chinese students accounted for £1.7 billion, with the number of students coming from the country rising to 120,385 in 2019. With the UK clashing with China over the Hong Kong security law and treatment of ethnic minorities in Xinjiang, there have been increased calls to protect our institutions from being so dependent on overseas students for funding. Speaking to Express, former advisor to Theresa May and the director of think tank, Onward, Will Tanner, warned the government has allowed some of our best institutions to be completely reliant on Chinese students. Due to this, he warned there could now be a serious risk the Chinese government could use students as potential leverage against the UK during future trade disputes or talks. He added, I think what is worrying, without any debate, we have seen an extraordinary increase in the number of students coming from China and the reliance on funding from those students. It creates the risk, a strategic risk, that our institutions are at the whim of Chinese immigration policy. There is a risk that the Chinese gov starts to use some of that leverage to place pressure on the UK in wider security or trade disputes. They haven't done it yet, but we have to recognize that. In a report, penned by Mr. Tanner, the group calls for the government to make changes to higher education. Indeed, the report, published earlier this year, insisted the government must introduce higher levels of funding for courses to encourage domestic students. They also stated the government must put a cap on the amount of money any university can make from students from one country in particular. Amid the concerns over the financial reliance on Chinese students, the UK government has also broadened the topics within its Academic Technology Approval Scheme (ATAS) specification. When studying subjects which could use a student's knowledge in programs to develop advanced conventional military technology (ACMT), weapons of mass destruction (WMDs), or their means of delivery, an ATAS is required. A Whitehall source said, the ATAS system is being expanded as security threats are constantly evolving.